This is a fictional, mythic universe divided into 10 distinct nations. But for decades, the history of this continent has been written in the blood of two massive rival superpowers, Northern Yan and Southern Zhao. We are told through sweeping cinematic exposition that a fragile peace has recently settled over the lands. But in a world forged by warlords and ancient grudges, peace is never permanent. It is merely a prelude to the next slaughter. We cut to the opulent, towering capital of Southern Zhao. The young king sits on his gilded throne, completely oblivious to the shadows creeping into his court. The tension spikes. In a sudden flash of glinting steel, assassins from Northern Yan strike. The cinematography shifts into a frantic, chaotic blur of blades, shattered wood, and dying guards. The king's life is hanging by a thread, only saved by the sudden, imposing intervention of his royal guardian and the kingdom's grand tutor, Guan. Guan is a man whose very presence suffocates the room. Clad in dark, intricate robes, his eyes calculate every angle of the room. He effortlessly thwarts the assassination, cutting down the spies, but as the dust settles, a darker seed is planted. Guan turns to the terrified young king and weaponizes this assassination attempt to stoke the fires of paranoia. "We are vulnerable," Guan insists, his voice dripping with feigned concern. The kingdom of Southern Zhao has lacked a grand field marshal since the end of the last Great War. To protect the crown, Guan proposes a terrifying but grand solution, a national martial arts tournament. The 8 great clans of Southern Zhao must each send their 3 finest warriors to the capital. They will fight, bleed, and survive a series of grueling, lethal trials. The last man standing will be crowned the Grand Field Marshal. The king, naive and desperate for security, agrees. But what the king doesn't know, and what the audience quickly pieces together, is that Grand Tutor Guan orchestrated the assassination attempt himself. The tournament is a smokescreen for a much more sinister coup. Here, we meet our first protagonist, Dong Yilong. Yilong is everything the ruthless warriors of this grim world are not. He is a young orphan, naive, relentlessly optimistic, and fiercely determined to prove his worth. The villagers treat him like absolute dirt, openly mocking his unknown parentage and low status. But Yilong just smiles through the abuse, clutching a simple, worn wooden comb. It is the only relic he possesses of his mother, a silent anchor to a past he doesn't understand. Contrasting Yilong's bright, golden retriever energy is our second lead, Chu Hun. Chu Hun is a mountain of scarred muscle, brooding silences, and unspoken trauma. He lives as a pariah in the village, branded by the elders as a deserter. But the truth of his past is far darker. Chu Hun is the last surviving member of a legendary military family. Years ago, his older brother, a great general of Southern Zhao, was left to be slaughtered on the battlefield because Grand Tutor Guan intentionally withheld reinforcements. Chu Hun is in hiding in this village out of cowardice. He is biding his time. He is a powder keg, and the king's tournament is the match. Yilong volunteers instantly, desperate for honor and a chance to discover his lineage. Chu Hun steps forward from the shadows, his eyes burning with the promise of vengeance against Grand Tutor Guan. A third villager, a burly but ultimately average man, makes up their required trio. The elders look at them with quiet pity. They know they are sending lambs to the slaughter. The trio sets out across the unforgiving, vast deserts of the Central Plains, and the movie wastes no time demonstrating the lethal reality of its universe. The cinematography opens up, showcasing a sprawling, arid wasteland that threatens to swallow them whole. Suddenly, the sand beneath their feet begins to shift and tremble. It's not an ambush by rival clans. It's an ambush by the land itself. Massive, CGI-rendered desert scorpions burst from the dunes. These aren't just giant bugs. They are the size of armored tanks, plated with thick chitin and wielding stingers dripping with lethal, glowing venom. The pacing of the scene matches the frantic heartbeat of the characters. Yilong relies on his raw agility, desperately dodging snapping pincers, while Chu Hun wields his signature weapon, a massive, heavy, broken spear with brutal practice efficiency. He fights like a man who has already died once. But the third villager isn't so lucky. In a visceral, sudden moment of violence that completely subverts the usual fantasy tropes, he is impaled by a stinger and dragged screaming beneath the shifting sands. There is no more dramatic final speech. He is simply gone. This is the narrative explicitly telling the audience, plot armor only goes so far in Double World. Yilong and Chu-hun barely escape with their lives, panting, bleeding, and covered in insect ichor. The stakes are immediately raised. They are now a two-man team in a tournament that strictly requires 3. If they arrive at the capital without a third, they will be disqualified before they even draw their weapons. They need a recruit. The surviving duo eventually arrives at Phoenix City, beating heart of southern Zhao. The world building here is staggering and highly detailed. The camera pans up to reveal towering pagodas, bustling, claustrophobic markets, and rival warriors clad in absurdly elaborate, dragon-encrusted armor. It feels like stepping straight into a high-level hub city of an MMO. As they navigate the crowded, dangerous streets, Yilong's wide-eyed innocence makes him an easy mark. Enter Jinggang, known simply as Little Sister. She is a pint-sized, street-smart pickpocket with a massive chip on her shoulder. Carrying a buster sword so hilariously large, it looks like it defies the laws of physics. She attempts to scam Yilong, but the interaction quickly spirals into a chaotic street brawl over her stolen clan totem. During the fight, Jinggang proves herself to be fierce, scrappy, and surprisingly lethal, swinging her giant blade with devastating momentum. Chu-hun watches her fight, his tactical mind working. Recognizing her raw, unrefined talent and utterly desperate to fill out their roster, Yilong and Chu-hun offer her a spot on their team. Jinggang, seeking glory and a way out of the gutters, accepts. The dynamic of our core trio is officially set. The optimistic orphan seeking his past, the brooding avenger seeking blood, and the cynical thief seeking fame. Together, they march to the registration halls, officially entering the deadly games. High above them, in a dark tower overlooking the arena, Grand Tutor Guan watches the arriving clans, pulling the strings of a conspiracy that will soon drench the chained arenas in blood. The massive, iron-studded doors of the capital's proving grounds groan open, revealing the first official trial of the King's Tournament. The camera sweeps out to show a terrifying, gladiatorial set piece. There is no solid ground here. Instead, massive, spiked iron chains are suspended hundreds of feet in the air, stretching across a seemingly bottomless abyss. The objective is brutally simple. Cross the chains, reach the platform on the other side, and claim a flag. The catch? 30 teams are crossing at the same time, and there are no rules against eliminating your competition on the way down. The whistle blows, and absolute chaos erupts. The cinematography here is pure spectacle, capturing the vertigo-inducing heights and the frantic close-quarters melee combat, balancing on narrow iron links. Rival clans immediately turn on each other. Warriors are kicked, slashed, and thrown screaming into the dark pit below. Our trio from Qingyuan is forced to adapt instantly. We see Chu-hun take the rear guard, his heavy, broken spear acting as an impenetrable wall. He fights with a cold, terrifying efficiency, sweeping the legs of rival assassins and crushing armor with blunt force trauma. In the middle is little sister Jinggang, using her massive buster sword not just as a weapon, but as a mobile shield, deflecting incoming arrows and throwing off the balance of attackers. But it's Yilong who shines in the vanguard. Unburdened by heavy armor, his parkour-like agility allows him to literally run along the sides of the chains, dodging blades and striking pressure points. He refuses to land a killing blow, a detail that sharply contrasts with the bloodthirsty warriors around him. Through raw teamwork and sheer willpower, they secure their flag, surviving a trial that instantly cuts the competition's roster in half. Here we meet Binu, a slave warrior whose imposing physical presence is matched only by the deep, haunted sorrow in his eyes. He is covered in brutal scars, a walking testament to the cruelty of southern Zhao's elite. When Chu-hun crosses paths with Binu in the underground armory, there is an immediate, silent understanding between them. No more words are spoken, but the cinematic framing tells us everything we need to know. Chu-hun sees a reflection of his own disenfranchisement in the slave warrior. They are both pawns in Grand Tutor Guan's twisted game, treated as disposable flesh. This brief, quiet moment serves as a brilliant narrative anchor, reminding the audience that the true villains of Double World aren't the monsters in the arena, but the men watching from the VIP boxes. But the tournament waits for no one. The surviving clans are summoned for the second trial, and the stakes shift from human combat to a massive, monstrous threat. The teams are sent deep into the treacherous, jagged canyons of the Outlands. Their mission? Infiltrate the lair of the legendary Beast King and steal one of its eggs. As they descend into the colossal, bone-strewn cavern, the sound design does the heavy lifting. Deep, rumbling growls vibrate through the floor, and the shadows seem to breathe. The rival clans, driven by arrogance and a thirst for glory, treat this like a simple raid. They charge in with heavy armor and clanking weapons, completely abandoning stealth. It is a fatal mistake. The Beast King awakens, and the CGI Kusatu reveal is breathtaking. It is a gargantuan, terrifying hybrid, part dragon, part prehistoric lion, covered in thick, razor-sharp scales and possessing devastating speed. The arrogant rival clans are instantly decimated. The Beast King swats armored men like flies, crushing them beneath its massive claws and unleashing a concussive roar that shatters stone. The cavern transforms into a slaughterhouse. Realizing that brute force is suicide, Chu-hun and Jinggang desperately try to orchestrate a distraction, sprinting through the cavern to draw the Beast King's aggro away from the nest. But the creature is too fast, pinning Chu-hun beneath a massive, debris-filled collapse. Death seems certain. Then, Yulong steps up. Throughout the film, Yulong has been mocked for his gentle nature, but here, it becomes his greatest asset. Instead of drawing a weapon, he approaches the frantic, defensive Beast King with his hands raised. He realizes the monster isn't attacking out of malice. It's a terrified mother protecting its nest from heavily armed invaders. The tension is unbearable as the giant beast lowers its massive, blood-stained snout to the tiny, unarmed boy. For a fleeting second, there is a profound moment of interspecies empathy. The beast calms, allowing Yilong to carefully take an abandoned secondary egg from the edge of the nest without shedding more blood. It's a beautifully directed sequence that perfectly encapsulates Yilong's character, surviving the impossible not by taking life, but by respecting it. With the egg secured, the Chinkyuon trio narrowly escapes the collapsing canyon, battered and bruised, but victorious. They have passed the second trial. But as they return to the capital, the camera cuts back to Grand Tutor Guan, whose treacherous master plan is finally entering its lethal endgame. The triumph of surviving the Beast King's lair is violently short-lived. Returning to Phoenix City, the surviving teams are hit with a soul-crushing twist. Grand Tutor Guan, dripping with aristocratic malice, reveals the true sickening nature of the final trial. There will be no grand team battle. The remaining warriors are told they must now turn their blades on their own allies. To claim the title of Grand Field Marshal, they must fight to the death until only one champion remains. Our trio is paralyzed by this revelation. The found family they have bled to build is now being forced to tear itself apart. As they debate the agonizing choice of who deserves to live and who must die, the narrative shifts away from the stone walls of the capital. They are approached by a mysterious hooded woman. She promises them a way out of Guan's impossible ultimatum and leads the surviving competitors away from the prying eyes of the city guards. Through a beautifully directed, shadow-drenched exposition sequence, the staggering truth is revealed to the audience. The comb bears the hidden crest of the royal family of Northern Yan, the bitter, sworn enemies of Southern Zhao. Yilong is not a lowly orphan from a Dust Bowl village. He is the lost prince of the rival empire, hidden away in enemy territory to protect him from a long-forgotten purge. But the Mystic Forest isn't a sanctuary. It is a kill box. The hooded woman was a decoy, and the quiet of the forest is shattered by the sudden, whistling hiss of arrows. Grand Tutor Guan never intended to let the tournament play out fairly. He has dispatched his elite black-clad assassins to slaughter the remaining contestants in the woods and sweep the board clean. Chaos erupts in the mist. The trio is instantly separated by the ambush. We follow Jinggang, our fierce, scrappy little sister. Throughout the film, she has hidden her vulnerability behind a tough exterior and her massive, anime-sized buster sword. Here, in the damp mud of the mystic forest, she fights with the heart of a lioness. The camera captures her desperate, breathless melee as she swings her colossal blade, taking down several of Guan's highly trained killers. But she is just a young girl, and she is hopelessly outnumbered. Not far away, Chu Hun hears the clash of steel. Realizing Jin Gang is isolated, he goes berserk. This is where Peter Ho's performance shines. Chu Hun becomes a force of nature, his broken spear shattering bone and armor as he tears through the assassins, desperately trying to carve a path to the young girl who had become like a little sister to him. He has already lost his biological brother to Guan's treachery. He refuses to let it happen again. But Double Whirl is a cruel universe. The editing cuts back and forth between Chu Hun's frantic, bloody sprint and Jin Gang's fading stamina. In a devastating slow-motion sequence, Chu Hun breaks through the tree line just a fraction of a second too late. He is forced to watch helplessly as a lethal strike cuts Jin Gang down. Her massive sword falls from her hands, hitting the forest floor with a dull, heavy thud. The cynical pickpocket, who just wanted to be a hero, is gone. Fueled by blinding grief and rage, Chu Hun charges the remaining assassins, but it's a trap. Overwhelmed by sheer numbers and exhaustion, he is beaten to the ground, heavily shackled, and captured by Guan's forces. Not only has he lost Jin Gang, but Guan's men immediately frame Chu Hun for the massacre in the forest, ensuring he will be dragged back to the capital and sentenced to a highly public execution as a traitor. The mist settles, and the forest falls deathly silent once more. Moments later, Dong Yilong finally pushes through the brush. The ever-optimistic, naive boy is met with a sight that shatters his innocence completely. He finds Jin Gang's lifeless body lying in the mud. The narration slows down, letting the weight of the moment breathe. There is no swelling, heroic music, just the raw, gut-wrenching sound of Yilong weeping as he digs a grave for his friend with his bare hands. As he places her massive sword over her burial mound as a makeshift tombstone, something inside Yilong irrevocably shifts. The boy who refused to use lethal force, the boy who pacified the Beast King with a hum, is gone. In his eyes, we see the hardening of a true king. He now understands the true depths of Grand Tutor Guan's evil, and he knows that if he doesn't stop him, the entire realm will burn. Standing over Jin Gang's freshly dug grave, the naive farm boy is dead. Dong Yilong has finally opened his eyes to the sickening reality of the Central Plains. He understands now that Grand Tutor Guan's tournament isn't a proving ground. It is a meticulously designed meat grinder meant to chew up the strongest warriors of the 8 clans so no one is left to oppose Guan's military coup. But Yilong knows he cannot storm the capital alone. The editing shifts, following Yilong as he moves like a shadow through the outskirts of Phoenix City, tracking down the surviving competitors who managed to escape the Mystic Forest massacre. He corners the proud, formidable leader of the Falcon clan in a dimly lit alleyway. The Falcon leader is hostile at first, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. But Yilong doesn't draw a weapon. Instead, he delivers a desperate, impassioned plea. The voiceover emphasizes Yilong's transformation here. He speaks with the hidden authority of a king. He lays bare the entirety of Guan's conspiracy, the false assassination attempt, the deliberate slaughter in the forest, and the ultimate endgame to trap and kill the young king of Southern Zhao. Yilong asks for a massive, unthinkable favor. He begs the Falcon leader to swallow his clan pride, track down the remaining scattered warriors, and return to the capital not as rivals, but as a unified rebel army. The sun rises over the grand arena of Phoenix City. The stands are packed with oblivious, cheering nobles. In the center of the sun-baked sand, Chu Hun is heavily chained to an iron post, stripped of his armor, bleeding, and awaiting public execution. High above the blood-stained sand sits the young king of Southern Zhao, watching from inside an opulent, newly constructed royal pavilion. Beside him stands Grand Tutor Guan, wearing a smug, victorious smile. He believes he has won. The clans are decimated, Chu Hun is in chains, and the king is completely isolated. The executioner raises his massive blade, but before it can fall, a lone figure steps into the arena. It's Yilong. The crowd falls into a confused silence. Yilong shouts up to the royal box, loudly declaring that as a surviving contestant of the Qingyuan clan, it is his sworn right and duty to execute the traitor who murdered his team. Guan, amused by the boy's supposed thirst for vengeance, waves his hand, granting Yilong permission. It is a brilliant, breathtaking ruse. Yilong walks slowly toward his shackled friend, weapon drawn. Chu Hun looks up, his eyes wide with shock. But as Yilong closes the final few feet, the music cuts out completely. With a lightning-fast strike, Yilong doesn't swing at Chu Hun's neck. He brings his blade crashing down on the heavy iron chains, shattering them instantly. The arena explodes into absolute chaos. Realizing he has been tricked, Guan drops all pretense of loyalty. He signals his elite guards to slaughter everyone in the sand. And worse, he triggers the... Seeing the arena lost, Guan attempts to flee, but Chu Hun intercepts him on the steps of the burning pavilion. This is the showdown 10 years in the making. The choreography is brutal, heavy, and exhausted. There is no elegant wire work here, just two men fighting with raw, primal hatred. As they clash, the Falcon clan leader realizes the king is minutes away from roasting alive inside the sealed pavilion. Demonstrating the ultimate act of loyalty and redemption, the Falcon leader uses his own body to pry open the superheated iron doors, sustaining fatal burns as he drags the coughing, terrified king out of the fire and into safety. With the king secured, Chu Hun finally shatters Guan's defenses. With a deafening roar that releases a decade of survivor's guilt, Chu Hun drives his broken spear straight through Grand Tutor Guan's chest. The tyrant falls. The coup is broken. The arena falls silent, save for the crackling of the dying fires. The movie transitions into a beautifully melancholic epilogue. The king, having witnessed the staggering sacrifices made for the realm, finally honors his word. Chu Hun is officially crowned the Grand Field Marshal of Southern Zhao, taking his rightful place not to wage war, but to rebuild a broken military. Jinggang is posthumously honored with a royal title, ensuring her name is carved into history, just as she always dreamed. But Yilong's path leads elsewhere. In a quiet, poignant final sequence, Yilong journeys back to the treacherous canyon outlands. True to his word, he returns the stolen egg to the Beast King, fully cementing his deep connection to the natural world. At a dusty crossroad on the edge of the Central Plains, Chu Hun and Yilong face each other one last time. They have survived the impossible, but they belong to different worlds now. Chu Hun must protect southern Zhao, and Yilong must travel deep into enemy territory to reclaim his stolen throne in northern Yan. They share a silent nod of absolute respect, turning their horses in opposite directions, riding off into the vast, unforgiving expanse of the double world. And that is the complete, blood-soaked, and beautiful saga of Double World. From the shifting desert sands to the brutal iron chains of the arena, this movie pulls absolutely no punches. And we finally reached the end of the road. But now, I want to hear from you. The Central Plains are unforgiving, but who was your absolute favorite character to survive them? Was it Yilong with his unbreakable optimism and hidden royal blood? Chu Hun, the brooding powerhouse fueled by a decade of vengeance? Or did our scrappy little sister Jinggang steal your heart before her tragic end in the mystic forest? If you survived this massive 60-minute mega recap and want to see more deep dives into the most visually stunning, lore-heavy cinematic universes out there, you know what to do. Hit that like button to appease the Beast King, and smash subscribe to officially join the ReelRewire clan. We are just getting started. If you love the epic scale of this universe, wait until you see what we're unearthing next. Expect more ancient tombs, legendary artifacts, and intense action. Until next time, keep your blades sharp and your eyes open. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next recap right here on ReelRewire.